Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we've got a kit from a relatively short-lived distributor of model kits, Entex. They were mainly known for reboxing kits from other manufacturers. Supposedly they may have made one mold on their own, but the majority of what they made or distributed and boxed was from other makers, mostly kits coming from Japan. So we'll look at this one. This is a kit of the Wildcat, part of our continuing Midway Week series. The Wildcat F4F was the main fighter for the U.S. Navy on board all three aircraft carriers at the Battle of Midway. It also made up part of the contingency of Marine Corps fighters from VMF 221 on Midway Island itself. They had mostly Brewster Buffaloes, but they also had a few F4Fs, I believe 4 were part of that. One of them being flown by a future ace, Marion Carl, who was one of the few survivors of that initial contact with the Japanese on Midway. Marion Carl went on to become an ace, a double ace actually, in Guadalcanal, famous test pilot, broke some world records, and ultimately died at the hands of an intruder in his house up in, I think it was Oregon. Somebody broke into his house and killed him, which is an unfortunate demise for a Medal of Honor winner. So let's look at this this kit and see what we got. So this was first put out by Entex in 1973. It's kit number N8493W. It's in 1/72nd scale. It's part of their World War II Naval Air Series. And they trademarked that, which is kind of strange. And they've got the F4F, U.S. Navy, and then Grumman. So here, 1/72nd, does have folding wings. They got their wingspan, movable flaps, pilot and decals included, total of 35 pieces. And in case you weren't aware, you got a lot of fun from Entex. Guess that's why they got that big smiley face on there. They've got a package design on here by Group X. There's your side. Repetition of the photograph. Some more information repeated from the top. Here's the other side. Basically identical. Here's your end flap. Same information. You do have the 73. Carson, California is where Entex was based. And then made in Japan. So this is one of the Japanese reboxes. Here we got the other side. And actually got a old price tag from Gemco, which was a discount department store for 73 cents. So pretty good deal. So this is a, oh, there's nothing on the bottom. Not that, but you do have their address, full address there. So this is a side opening box. And it is, there's your instruction sheet. It is a bag kit inside there, which is a little nicer than sometimes some of the kits of this era. And here's your instruction sheet. Very thin, flimsy paper, but is kind of gloss. But that's it for your instruction sheet. Got your Wildcat name across top. You do have a parts list showing all the trees and the numbers. I guess this is printed in Japan. Maybe that's why this paper is a little unusual. And very simple drawings and 6 steps, which the 6th step includes painting and put your decals on. So this shows your wing folding mechanism. They're not even showing you putting the fuselage halves together. But so it's just going straight to showing how the wing folding mechanism works. And the other half there's your tail assembly. Put your cockpit on. It's really poor drawings. You get some drop tanks and some air scoops. Air scoops are really questionable. for the oil coolers. Then here's your landing gear. Really questionable looking landing gear for a Wildcat. And that's it. And then they refer you to seeing your package for your paint and decals, which it doesn't really show you a whole lot much. I mean, granted, the Wildcats of this era, there wasn't much to them, but still, for a beginning modeler, that's not giving you a whole lot of information. So let's look at what we got here for kit itself. Looks like the decals are inside the bag. This bag has never been opened, so we will open it right now. It's stapled on the ends. Get ourselves another dose of 1973 air. Smell that incense. And let's take a look at the decals here. We've got, I guess, the registration on these is pretty far off. The stars kind of a little misshapen. The center red dots are off. I don't know if you can see it because it's white. But you've got markings for 41F8, which is a VF-41 aircraft from Fighting 41. And Fighting 41 flew Wildcats in the first part of the war. They were involved in Operation Torch. VF-41 is one of the oldest fighter squadrons in the Navy. They started off in 1927 as VF-5, and they changed names, as was common for fighter squadrons in the day, as they moved around from ship to ship. The fighting squadron codes were assigned by the ship number. So the USS Langley was CV-1, so any squadron assigned to them at the time would have their squadron type designator changed to -1. Saratoga was 2, Lexington was 3, Ranger was 4, Yorktown was 5, Enterprise was 6, and so on. So as the squadron was shifted from carrier to carrier, its squadron number was changed to match that. And in the pre-war years, and then again later on, they had additional kind of suffixes added to the squadron numbering system. So you'd have an S if it had a secondary role in scouting, or B for a secondary role in bombing. So VF-5 then later became VF-5S when they took on a scouting role. Then in 1928, they changed aircraft and became VF-5B because that aircraft had the ability to drop some bombs. They got transferred to Langley and became VF-1B. Back to the VF-5B in 30, VF-5S in 32, VF-5B again in 33. Then they got transferred to the Ranger as VF-4 in 37. And then in 41, the designation got changed to VF-41 because Ranger was not capable of carrying some of the larger aircraft. So they doubled up on fighter squadrons. So you had VF-41 and VF-42 both on the Ranger. And then it carried 2 scouting squadrons. So they didn't have a torpedo squadron on Ranger. Ranger took part in Operation Torch in, November of 1942, which was the Allied landings in North Africa on 8-9 November, and they ended up fighting some of the French aircraft that were defending North Africa and the Casablanca area. Shot down 16 French aircraft and lost 5 Wildcats, but they were able to recover all 5 pilots, so they didn't lose any pilots from that operation. Then they did take part in what was called Operation Leader, which was U.S. Navy airstrikes against German shipping in Norway. And during that campaign, they ended up shooting down a couple of German aircraft, including at least one Ju-88. So that's a little bit of history of them. After that, they switched over to the Hellcat, became VF4 again, and went out into the Pacific. So I was able to locate some images of VF41, the F8 one. Interesting, this is a folding wing, even though it doesn't designate what specific F4F this is. The folding wing didn't come out until the F4F-4. That's also when they switched to the 6-gun from the 4-gun Wildcat. And at the time of Torch, they were still flying or at least the time of the markings on here that are provided for you, which are the red dot center with the tail stripes and the full designator on the side of the fuselage. They were actually still flying F4F3s, which were non-folding wing ones. So it's a little off that they're giving you early war markings for a non-folding wing F4F3 on an F4F4 kit. So I'll show you some of the images of what this decal set is supposed to represent. Now let's take a look at the kit itself. And so this is originally from a 1964 Aoshima mold, and it kind of shows its age. You've got raised panel lines, rivet detail, simple representation of the fabric covering, and the cowling is molded, or part of the cowling is molded as part of the fuselage. You do get some very heavy, deep lines to represent the cowl flaps. Exhaust down below is just this weird little dimple. You got just lines representing where the windows on the bottom would have been. I don't know if this is a short shot on the mold there. There's a very strange hole right there. And then you've got your tail planes, and then the inner part of the wing fold. It's not the crispest looking. There's a lot of flash. Not heavy, but there's a lot of little bits of flash all over, so this required a lot of cleanup. Real heavy edge on the cockpit, and no cockpit detailing at all. Not that you'd expect much from this era. Then you've got the underside of the center section here, which looks like kind of goes into where the wheel well would be. You've got your drop tanks, which look really oversized for this particular aircraft. You do have the propeller, which that propeller looks more like the propeller that belongs to an F4F-3. Then you get your landing gear parts, which look like there's a little bit more to it than what they show in the pictures, but still really simple. You do have your oil cooler scoops, which do look better than what shows on the instructions. And then you got your rest of your wings. So you do have the dimples for where the 50 caliber machine guns would have been. And you can see how the wing folding mechanism works. Not very close to being accurate on the real Wildcat. You've got what's left of a pilot figure. Looks like Captain Dan. And unlike where it says movable flaps, it's actually movable ailerons. A couple more parts for the landing gear. Your wheels are real simple. Here's your landing gear stubs. And that's your engine. Front part of the cowling with very simplistic representation of an engine. Not much for detail. And here's your clear parts. giant ejector pin push marks on the top of the canopy. Not much you can do about cleaning that up. Extremely thick. The canopy framing appears to be done on the inside, making it very hard to paint that. There's your windscreen. So, not much to this. I guess, you know, for a 1964 era mold for a 72nd scale kit, not too bad. I mean, you do get the ability to make folding wings, which was a nice touch for this era of a kit, I guess, but very poorly rendered. So this kit was issued in 64, as I mentioned, originally by Aoshima. They also popped it out in 66. During the 60s, there were some other additional imports into the U.S. Under the UPC label. MRC, who later brought in Tamiya kits. Aoshima popped this a couple more times in the 70s. And the final issue that I could find on it was actually in 1994. They're still putting this thing out under the Aoshima label with some really much better looking box art and stuff. I'm sure someone in the 90s bought this thinking it may have been a more recent molding and been surprised at how poor this kit is. So that's about it for today. If you've put one of these together in one of the various different issues of it, let us know in the comments section, what you think about it. If you've done any of these other 60s Aoshimas as well. If you've built one of these and you still have it, you want to take some pictures of it or a little video of your build, definitely send that in to us for our next viewer build video. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching and have yourself a great rest of your day.